Guys, this is GamerCow. Welcome to another Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel replay. I am still playing this game, not super often, but I've been playing a decent bit today with the WCS qualifier stuff. I'm not looking to qualify, I want the gems, let's be real. I've already got quite a few of them, to be honest, because I've been doing pretty well in this thing overall. I was starting off with my Valmonica stuff. I played like 1 or 2 games of the Fiendsmith control deck, but I am like awful at that. I don't really know what I'm doing with it at the moment. And so I went to my White Forest Azamina Fiendsmith stuff. And I have an absolutely cracking game showing the full power of this deck in our replay here. So let's just cut to the chase. I'll show the deck at the end of the video and show exactly what I'm working with here, but for now, this competition stuff is fun, and like the music for this is really good. My hand is like fine. We've been forced to go second here. I did lose the die roll. I've been losing so many coin tosses in this thing, but this deck can go first or second if you've got like a couple of hand traps to help. Nibiru Troll especially are pretty good for that. So we have Nibiru, we have Imperm, the opponent is on a 40 card deck, and let's just see what we're dealing with. It is Yubel, so Samsara deloads, I can't exactly stop that, so it gets to summon Yubel here. I figure I really don't want them getting to Nightmare Throne or Nightmare Pain if they didn't open them, so I thought this is probably worth an Imperm. They're likely going to have something else to do with it here, but Yubel does tend to summon quite a lot before they get to where they want to go, so hopefully Nibiru can kind of stave that off. They do not have their normal summon anymore though, so could be a bit of an issue. So I go, yeah, let's Imperm this and see what else they do from here, because we really don't want them to get to Nightmare Throne and stuff. It becomes very, very difficult to win this matchup at that point. I don't have spell trap removal really, so we then see Fiendsmith tracked, so yeah, Yubel Fiendsmith, pretty common sort of deck to play. And this is where I'm a little bit of a sneaky sneak, because I realize that they're going to go through up until sequence, right? They go through the usual line with it here. I figure if I toggle off until sequence gets summoned, then I hide the fact if I have Nibiru until it's too late. They have already normal summoned after all. So we can kind of stop their turn just about completely at that stage, which is pretty good. So we can let them do the Requiem. I mean, we have to because it was at 5, but I hold toggle off here so that we get Engraver into the discard here, and then that gets summoned back, which is even better for me because now they can't do that afterwards as well. And then we get the Link 2 into sequence, and here is where we unleash the Nibiru. So we get to tribute these two off, we get the Yubel off the field as well, which is pretty good. They do get to bring Phantom of Yubel out, and they have a Gruesome Grave Squirmer, which does not choose to destroy this because they want the negate here, right? They've already shuffled back the Spirit of Yubel, at least that we know of, right? So there's 2 unknowns in hand. They're not Imperm, which is good, but it could be like Effect Veiler, Droll, and Lockbird would be devastating. This hand it looks really bad, right? We really don't have much of anything going on here except maybe Wanted for something, so, you know, doesn't look like a promising hand, but we're about to go full beast mode on this and unleash every single part of this deck. Check it out. So we draw Maxi, very funny, and we use that with the Wedju Temple actually to get the Senginjin out. Senginjins are traps, so they can't actually use Phantom of Yubel against it at that point. But it's a continuous spell, right? So it's not a monster whilst it's in this zone, so they can't use Phantom of Yubel to stop me searching the Millennium Golem here. So we do get the body on the board, and we get to add said Millennium Golem. This is a monster effect to put it in the spell trap zone, however, so the opponent does stop this. And that's fine. Like, I needed to bait this out at some point. I couldn't destroy it in battle, so yeah. They destroy a regular Yubel. Maybe they have like another one in hand or something already, and so they just get Terror Incarnate out. This thing could be a problem. Most people don't play Ultimate Nightmare anymore, but it is a little bit of a bait situation, right? If I want to get rid of this thing, I need to make sure that I have a negate on hand to be absolutely sure that Ultimate Nightmare can't come out against us, right? But so far, you know, they haven't hand trapped us yet. I was checking the usual stuff. We've not had Ash, so there's definitely no Ash involved. Effect Veiler I don't think really has had a target that it could go for yet, so I guess that could still be there, but Imperm can't get played because they have stuff on field, and they didn't draw because we have Surged, so feeling relatively safe. If they Nibiru, that's probably the only concerning one, but that's what Wanted is still here for, right? We're going to still be able to do the Azamina stuff if they go for that route, so yeah. We link off into Moon. Nibiru being useful as a body as well here means I don't need to have the Golem in play as well. So we do our own Fiendsmith stuff here. We get Lacrima. Lacrima sends the Engraver. And now I go for the Wanted because of like, okay, we definitely don't have Ash involved at this point. So let's get Diabellstar involved now because that gets Deception and we can get the Azamina play in as well. Like I'm thinking maybe we can try and force them to, if they have Nibiru, we could force them to use it relatively early on here, try and insulate some of the plays. And so I think I'm at like, what am I at, like 4? This would be, so we've had Sengenjin, we've gone the Moons is 2, and then that's 3 for the sequence, 4 for Lacrima, this is 5 as far as summons go. So if they had Nibiru, this would be where the toggle would happen for it. And so it's a check because we can still play even if Nibiru happens here. So check for that, and there's no Nibiru. So we go Deception. Deception tribute the Golem that we can't use anymore. We can't put it in the spell trap zone because they negated it, so that's fine. We can go Hollow to get the Asilago. That lets us get an Azamina or a Sinful Spoils card out of the deck. We have drawn between Diabellstar and drawing 2 in the opener. We've drawn every single target in the deck as far as Sinful Spoils go, but what we haven't drawn is LZ Azamina. So we do still get a search off of this, which is really good. This comes up later as well. And then the Link 2 here goes into Sequence. And Sequence to get the Lacrima. Pretty standard sort of setup for it here. We can remove the Moon and the Lady Lacrima to get this one out. We then go for the Engraver. We have not used the Fiendsmith Tract yet, so we put Engraver to hand so that we can get it. Tract is needed in the graveyard for its fusion effect here, actually. So we get Lurry, pitch the Lurry, that summons it to the field, the usual Fiendsmith stuff here. But here's where it gets a bit different, because we're going to link off the Sequence and the Lurry into Sprind. New technology for this deck. Spright Sprind now sends a level 2 monster from deck to grave, which is the Estella. We then use the graveyard effect of the Tract in order to fuse the Fiendsmith Fusion and Link, Synchro, etc. On the field into a Rextremende. Again, brand new technology for this. This used to be Beatrice, right? The original thing for this was you would exceed summon Beatrice with the Lacrima and the Asilago here, but since we can't do that anymore, thank goodness to be honest, we go for this instead. This will discard 1 card from hand and then send a Light Fiend from the extra deck or extra to the graveyard. If you had space, you would send Desiree here, but we don't have space for that. That's fine. What this is needed for is to discard a spell or trap card. We still have 1 of them, so we can discard Morian here in order to send Lady Lacrima. We'll get some burn damage off as well here. The number of fiends in the graveyard doesn't really matter here, so that's fine. And then Estella gets to trigger because a spell or trap was sent to the graveyard to activate a monster effect. Rextremende does discard, sends to graveyard, activates the effect. So then we get this out now, which is really good. And the other bit with the Fiendsmiths, we still have a Light Fiend in play, and the reason we didn't shuffle in one of the Link monsters is because these are used as material. So we can send that as an equip spell to the graveyard to get Sylvie in play. Sylvie now gets what Tales of the White Forest, and we can do White Forest stuff, despite not starting with any of the cards in hand. I do kind of realize, in order to get a search off of this thing, we actually need to put one of our Sinful Spoils cards back into the deck here. So we shuffle the Morian back into the deck with the Wanted to draw a card. Engraver, it doesn't really matter what we draw here, obviously you'd like a hand trap, but doesn't really make a difference in this case. We can now summon the LZ Azamina and use that to go into a Sealer as the level 6 here. That gets us to set the Sinful Spoils card back out of the deck. We can discard the Tails, which will recycle itself as well. It's pretty good. And we get our Morian back, which is really nice. We haven't used a graveyard effect to this yet, so pretty useful. We can get regular LZ, Tails comes back into play, and now we get Diabell in order to recycle the infinite impermanence that we played in the previous turn. So if this game was to go on any longer than this, we have backup as well. Like, we have follow-up for stopping stuff next turn as well. It's pretty good. Now Sylvie can come out in order to shuffle back the Sealer and link it and basically synchro itself off with Arcilago in order to get our negate in play here. And they've shown no hand traps, so it was a case of just go through the motions. We're not really worried about anything at this point, but what we are worried about is this thing triggering. So we did want to have a negate in play to make sure that couldn't happen. So now we go and pop it. They trigger Lacrima. That's been their toggle the entire time, is just they could get Lacrima to do something at some point. So they'll get an extra 1200 basically defense against their life points here. It is not going to make a single bit of difference, don't worry. Arcilago then gets to go back into the extra. We get Sylvia out here with the Howler Dazamina. We can send Marion back to the grave. We can still recover this if we want to. Wedju Temple goes away to get LZ, and Rusia can come out now. Now we can link these two off into Spright Elf. If I put this in a tap position, it would have been better, to be honest. It would have worked out just as fine, but whatever. We get a spell back with Rextremende when it goes to the grave. That's pretty useful. Then we can send the Tails. We've searched every single target out of our deck. With stuff here, we do not need to use Tails of the White Forest in this one. We could if we wanted Sylvie, but we've already used Sylvie, so it doesn't really matter. And one thing to notice, we have not normal summoned in this turn. Every single summon that we've done here has been a special summon, which is absolutely ridiculous to think about here. Now, if we had more space in the extra deck, or maybe we could have done this anyway, we could use Spright Elf if we wanted to here in order to go into Silvera, and Silvera would let us do double piercing damage against these guys and just win the game there. But I thought, why not like completely destroy everything with this, and instead we're going to put Engraver on the board so we can go into Chaos Angel in a sec, but also because Engraver can send and get rid of another one of these cards as well. So we send the token, we then go into Chaos Angel to banish the sequence, because if they somehow did survive this turn, like I don't know how they would, but if they somehow did survive this, we want to make sure they don't have follow-up on the Fiendsmith side. Turns out they did have a Spirit of Yubel in hand. We have 2 negates, so it's not a problem, but we want to make sure we don't use Barone here, because this thing will actually trigger on destruction, right? So we want to make sure we use Sylvia and not Barone de Fleur, because this will destroy it and then trigger the effect to summon a Yubel from the deck. So use the one that tributes, just negate the effect, do not destroy the card, and go from there. The very rare Lurry getting to pick up a destruction here, and we have well over lethal in order to get ourselves going here. Absolutely ridiculous setup, getting every single part of the deck to work in tandem. That's just what this does. It is just a massively synergistic combination of stuff, and I love it. This deck is one of my favorites to play, for sure. It was one of those that I played because when Beatrice was legal, it was a case of, okay, you should not be allowed to do this, but you can, therefore I will. But when Beatrice got banned, we did get the new tech, as we see here, and okay, it was another UR that I had to craft for it, but I've managed to get some use out of Rextremende in several decks at this point, actually. It's been surprisingly good. Like, it's not a card you see in a lot of Fiendsmith decks, to be honest, but it's been really helpful when I've used it, so I've been quite happy with it. Overall, I think the only thing I'm a little sketchy with in this deck is only having 15 actual spell traps. We do have the 4 of the Millennium stuff, right? These do count, and we have plenty of ways of getting extra spell traps into play, but Rextremende discarding from hand means you have to discard a spell trap specifically. And sometimes if you have a Stellar in different ways in the combo, if it's already in the graveyard otherwise, you can't send, say, Sequence or Engrave the Requiem from the field to the grave because they're not spell cards in the grave, right? So you've got to be a little bit careful sometimes when you're trying to get a Stellar into play here, but it's just phenomenal. Like, the whole deck just works really, really well. You could maybe try and put some more hand trap stuff in here. I don't really know where you would put them in, to be honest. I'd almost rather see like Lightning Storm and other back row removal would probably be the first thing I would look at doing here. But yeah, it just, everything kind of works. There's so many different pieces that just do absolutely everything you would want. There's no locks anywhere in any of these engines, so really you're restricted by the extra deck space. And I think this extra deck does work out quite well in the end. There's no Desiree because it's too hard to make most of the time. It's a bit win more. You would like to use it, but it's just too difficult to really justify putting in the deck. Likewise, because there's no Desiree, that means there's no Fiendsmith in Paradise, because that card does absolutely nothing when you don't have Desiree. I would love to put Underworld Goddess in here, but there's just no space for it. Apollousa was the other one that was considered, but most of the time it's difficult to get that many materials for Apollousa because you're limited on board space. You'd see there's just too many, sometimes you've got too many materials to do things with and not enough space to get them all out. Apollousa takes like 3 in order to be useful, one of which being a Link 2, which you can't use Sprind or Elf to do that, so it gets a little bit complicated. Like, you need Sprite Elf plus basically to get out. It's just like, it's too much. IP's another thing you could consider in here. IP Masquerader is pretty useful, but I don't really have a payoff to go into with it, and I think Chaos Angel is just a little bit better in general because you can go Sylvie plus, or even Lacrima plus Isolago and get a dark and light enabled Chaos Angel here, which is difficult to get rid of, and also it's a different type of removal compared to some of the other stuff we have in here. The other thing I don't have is Doomed Dragon. I do kind of wish that I could fit that in. Sometimes you do want the extra body that way. We do try and threaten that at the very least, so that the opponent may have to use hand traps like the opponent did this time around in order to try and play around that, right? Because Doom Dragon put something in the back row, very dangerous move, and then you link it off into Moon and it just works anyway. But again, extra deck space is a little bit tight, and I haven't really found a lack of material to be the problem with this deck at the moment. I do think the card works, I just don't think it's necessary, and that's why we're not playing it in here. Overall, ridiculously fun deck. It just does so much. There are very, very few actually bad hands in here, and we can play some really impactful cards for stopping enemy turns and stuff as well. So it's really good. And very occasionally you might get to search your Fat Veiler with our Sealer as well if you really want to. So yeah, I absolutely love this deck. I think there's a couple of cards you could maybe include that would be really fun as well, but this has just been so consistent, I'm not going to fault it. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully it has been interesting, and until next time, take care.